Welcome to Tap In. My name is David Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching, and this episode we're discussing gentlemen's agreements that are holding you back. I have been around Jiu-Jitsu for quite a long time, and sometimes these are all wildly unspoken and they're polite, but yet unproductive. So one of the things that I almost always see, especially with newer students, is accepting sweeps. When you get swept, there is a moment where you can actually defend the sweep and work your way back up. Maybe you can post, maybe you can post with the elbow because you couldn't post with the hand, and then you start getting your weight back under you and you get back up to your feet. Feet, knees, elbows, whatever you want to call it. But you get back up. You don't go to your back. That is a weird agreement that I often see with practitioners because we're so in love with the guard. So when we get swept, it's almost like we start to think, I play guard anyway. I do jiu-jitsu. I'm fine playing off my back. And then we allow ourselves to get swept. Instead of doing anything about it halfway through the technique, we end up on the back, and then we start formulating a guard and we play from there. If we're practicing a guard or playing from bottom, that's different. If we're actively trying to win a round, do not accept sweeps. Post your hand, post your foot, post your elbow. Some instances, post your head. I don't say that for every instance because you can lead to certain neck injuries, but post. Post, and if you're late to posting, get back up. There's a moment when people sweep where they don't actually have complete control of you. There's a moment where my weight's not on you, where I don't have supreme grips, where I don't solidify everything and then staple you to the ground. Before that happens, you have a window that you can use to escape what's going on. One of the things that I will sometimes visually explain to students, I'll put my hands out and I'll explain, almost if you can look at it like a time frame or a linear line. The technique starts at A and it ends at B. And then at the end of B, the person who just got hit with the technique, who just got swept, for example, he waits till B is solidified, and then he starts his A and wants to solidify the guard. I need to solidify or start my response to the sweep before we land in B. It shortchanges a whole lot of things, creates a different atmosphere when you can roll with someone who does not accept sweeps. There's a couple of military guys I roll with, wrestlers who I roll with. They have this uncanny ability to constantly going. They don't like to be on their back. They don't like being in bad positions. So the minute they start to get knocked off balance, you can feel them fighting back. When they get knocked off balance completely, they're fighting to get back up immediately. They understand that strategically, being on my back is bad. I don't want to be on my back. That's not something jiu-jitsu people quite understand as often as we probably should. So in a training environment, we accept a sweep, then we start rolling, we play guard, then I hit a sweep and you sort of accept a sweep. And it's this, in essence, a roll going back and forth. We're just kind of cooperative and we're training in a cooperative way. Beautiful. It's great. We're getting a lot of mileage out of the things that we're doing. But if we're looking to have a competitive round, it doesn't mean that I need to be a competitor and sign up for a competition. But if we're having a competitive round, I need to stop those sweeps. If I can't stop the sweep, I need to engage a guard before they solidify the top position. There's a lot of things we need to do there. The other thing that I see quite often is people defaulting to the bottom. Just a week, I had a student come in who was visiting. I know the student, so it wasn't me being mean or bully. But I think I was sitting on my butt. They were one knee down and they just plopped to their butt. And I remember saying, don't go to your butt. And she was like, but why? I said, don't go to your butt. And she didn't understand why. So then I passed the guard pretty effortlessly. I got to side control and I dropped my weight down and I crushed her with rib pressure. She tapped. And I explained, every time you see me on my butt, you need to be active in trying to pass the guard. Do not relent or relinquish the top position to me, someone who's that much better and stronger than you. Because if you relinquish top position without me having to sweep and earn it, and you go to your butt, one of us has to come up. So if you're going to give me top position, then I take top position. Once I get up, now I get to pass. You're not going to be able to stop me. You're not good enough. And I don't mean that boastfully. I mean, that's the facts of the role. So then I pass, and you still want to play bottom because that's what you chose. So then I pass and I crush you. So then we were rolling again. And throughout the roll, she did it one more time. I was like, okay. So I passed, and I was passing. I was like, you went to your butt again. And then I crushed her again, and she tapped again. My point being, if you are smaller, less experienced, do not actively go to your butt against someone who's the opposite of those things. Again, when we're equal or I'm better than the other person, skill-wise, not as a human being, skill-wise, I can go to my butt because I'm working on something specific, or I'm allowing the other person to work. That's different. If I am relenting a lot of skill, I don't go to my butt. I don't drop to my back. I don't play off the back. I am actively engaged in playing sit-up guard and passing the guard, or maybe even standing up, depending on if we have space or not. But I'm not giving you the premium position and allowing you to get top position and pass. That's not beneficial for me. So stop playing off your back so willingly. Make your opponent force you onto your back. If you play from bottom, you're giving up top position, you're giving up the freedom of movement, you're giving up angles, you're giving up weight, gravity, and you're giving them all to your opponent. So then they get to play whatever it is they want to play with all those advantages. No matter how good your guard is, you're giving up all those advantages. The guard is a defensive position, always will be. You're allowing me to attack. And that's not a great position to be in most cases. The other one that I find so often is, and it goes back to rolling, one person will play top, one person will play bottom. And then we interchange, sometimes accepting sweeps when we don't need to, and we go back and forth. Not understanding that technically we can both try to play top. We don't have to willingly accept, because we bump fists and slap hands, that one of us has to sit on the butt and play bottom game, and one of us gets to stand and pass. None of that has to occur. We can be 50 both, one knee up, one knee down. We can both have both knees down. We can both stand. Like, it's not one or the other. So sometimes I think that when I get on the mat and I stand in a dominant position, like one knee up, one knee down, just hypothetically, I will notice that my opponent will then sit. Almost as if there's this unspoken agreement that we're playing jiu-jitsu and one of us has to play that position. We don't. Additionally, one of us, it's not chess where one of us has to start and then the other. Is almost what this equates to. We're both obligated to hold our own and implement our strategies. The other person across from us does not get to dictate whether I start in one position or another without making me start there. So again, stop starting on your butt. It's a hindrance, and nothing in the rule book says one has to be this way and one has to be that way. But if you start paying attention to your rounds, if you start on your knees, I can almost guarantee you your opponent will start on their butt, and it'll give you a little bit of a leg up. Give it a try. The other thing, I see too many grips being allowed. Not enough grip fighting in general. And sometimes when I grab a grip, the other person doesn't even pay attention to it. Sometimes they might try to break it, especially if it's hindering something. But then if I regrip, their likelihood of them fighting that grip off reduces. And if they break that grip, and if I regrip for a second or third time in this case, they almost stop paying attention to it. So grips are really important. Grip fighting is super important no matter what position you're in. There's an element of that grip fighting that needs to take place literally no matter what position you're in. Think of a position and think about grip fighting. You need your grips as the offensive person. The defensive may also need certain grips, or at the very least, they need to break or negate certain grips. Not enough grip fighting occurs. Not enough grip fighting occurs in like half. Not enough grip fighting happens in mount. These are positions that people for some reason kind of stop thinking about it, and they start thinking more of like guard, I guess. But all those positions are super important, and you need to grip fight. Do not allow your opponent to get a grip without addressing it, because it will lead to something else down the road that you do not want to deal with. So in closing, these are all positions and situations that I find really common. I know there's a couple of others around that might fit into this, but really these are the main ones that I find students doing specifically early on that do not advance their jiu-jitsu career fast enough. It kind of slows things down. My biggest hurdle out of a white belt, let me backtrack. My biggest headache is a student that doesn't play the game the way we know it. So if I roll with a brown or black belt, we've all been doing jiu-jitsu a really long time, so we understand the things and the flow and what's to expect. When I get someone in who's new, who maybe has a little bit of grappling experience, not enough to really dominate, and they do things unlike what we do in jiu-jitsu, but they are grappling centric, it throws me off. When they don't buy into the little gentleman's agreements that we tend to have, it throws my game off just slightly. And you're almost like, it's almost like knowing, like when you watch horror movies and you've watched so many of them that you know where like that moment where something's about to happen and you can sense it, and then it happens. You're like, oh, I knew that was going to happen there. But then you watch another movie that's just made by maybe someone from a different country or someone who's taking a new spin on horror, and they just surprise you somewhere where you didn't. That's what that's like. You have a cadence with most jiu-jitsu people because there's an agreement of how we play the game. When you can start breaking those little agreements, it brings a different element to the game, and you start applying yourself differently, and you're not looking to agree on things that you shouldn't agree to, like the stuff that I mentioned. Hope you liked the episode. If you have any questions, please hit me up, dfm.2099 on Instagram or Threads, dfmcoaching.com. If you'd like to work with me, have me out for a seminar, workshop, private lesson, all the above, that would be great. Also, if you're into reading, please check out Choke Point Chronicles, and I blog once or twice a week. Thank you for everything. Love the support. Appreciate it. Until next time.